we're going to be going ahead and diving into the post photo shoot, post fat loss phase. I would argue probably one of, if not the most important phases, because it's a very transitional period. There's a lot going on kind of psychologically, coming out of fat loss. You've had a goal for a long time that you're driving towards achieving, and suddenly you've been able to tick that off, right? So it's quite a transitional phase in that respect. So we'll be walking through and chatting about that. If anyone here has done a photo shoot recently in New Jersey, I see a few familiar names in that respect. And you're comfortable kind of turning your camera on, having a chat about the experience you had. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. But before that, of course, we've got our weekly giveaway to go ahead and enter as well. If you take a photo of the screen on this occasion, we'll be going back to an old prize that a lot of people actually were asking about and trying to get themselves. So if you take a photo of the screen, tag, of course, your coach, K-Mac, me, D, or David, one of us three, will be absolutely fine. You'll be in with a chance of winning a pair of AirPod Pro 2s engraved with K-Mac Athlete on the case there as well.
Head southeast, then turn right.
Somebody's driving.
Yeah,
okay.
Street, fight the traffic. You will arrive at school.
Leave that up there for a little second. But guys, if anybody does feel comfortable to jump on and they've after previously doing a shoot and you want to have a little chat about it, even just shoot a little message into our chat and we'll let you come on. But again, no pressure, but it'd be nice to hear a bit of a reflection on the shoot. So one of the biggest things that pops up here is just like psychologically, as you said, Sam, it's that transition where you've been laser focused on this goal of achieving your fat loss result or achieving the photo shoot, and then all of a sudden you hit that landmark and it's gone. And it, like, whilst there's definitely a high, there's definitely a high, it's definitely a period of celebration, but then very quickly you're left with this period of like, oh no, like I've been focusing all my attention on this for the last 6 months or for the last 4 months or whatever it has been, and then all of a sudden it's been taken from underneath you essentially, and it can be it can essentially lead you to have a little bit of like existential anxiety, let's say, where you're just like, I don't actually know like what my new goals are, and I'm left with like no real solid direction. So I think one of the kind of first port of calls is like sitting down and realigning and setting some new goals. Personally, I think it's a good idea, particularly if you've achieved like your end goal in terms of levels of leanness and muscularity. If you want to be somebody who just like, you know what, I'm actually pretty comfortable, I'm going to maintain this. I don't necessarily want to go into like a direct muscle building phase. I don't really want to go into a bulking phase. My goal here is to maintain like a sustainable level of body fat and shift my focus towards a different, more performance oriented goal. Because with like this stuff, with the K-Mac process as a whole, there's no like endpoint. So even if you've done a photo shoot, it's not just like you've completed something, because this is an ever continuing process of self-improvement, and that goalpost can shift every so often. So Perrin, I know you've done multiple shoots in the past. Like, how have you shifted that goalpost post photo shoot?
So it's probably a well-known fact in the community now that I've both done post photo shoot, post fat loss, sometimes very well, sometimes not so well. And the first time I ever did it, because a lot of the time for a lot of our clients, it's going to be the first time that they've achieved this level of leanness for a very long time or ever in their life. I would say it's about solidifying your new identity. I think it's important not to think of as you had said, the end point. I love the analogy of it's like climbing a mountain. When you're actually at your photo shoot, you're on cloud nine because that experience is great, especially if you're experiencing it for the first time. But as with any kind of hike, climb of a mountain, like at the end of the day, you've got to come back down and solidify the new identity that you are at that point. And I think something that I tend to always remind my clients is that what got you into shape will keep you into shape. It's not that that's it, that's over, you can go back to your old habits, because that's a surefire way to undo the maybe months, for some people years of hard work that they've put in to be able to, get into photo shoot condition. And I've heard horror stories, I've witnessed horror stories, I've experienced horror stories of people gaining 10, 15, 20 pounds within a week or two because they don't have a solid plan. And that's where I think just ensuring that your mindset is in the right place to be able to think to yourself, right, this isn't the end goal. It's a checkpoint. I've got work to do still afterwards, really kind of keeps you in the game and helps solidify that new identity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like that's the big thing there. If individuals aren't thinking like even like before the photo shoot itself, you're not like kind of excited for all of the progress that you're going to make after the photo shoot. So like going through a harsh calorie deficit, it limits your ability to build muscle, it limits your ability to build up your strength. And it should always be the case. I know in my, like anytime I've done it, I've always been like nearly excited to just get back eating a little bit more, getting my strength back up to all-time highs. Maybe like as you get really lean, there can be like more like niggles that pop up as well. So like for me, it's always been, I'm actually really looking forward to getting my training back into the best spot that it has been. Because even if you're like still hitting PBs coming into your photo shoot, you're not reaching your potential in terms of muscle and strength gain. You have to actually be eating enough calories in order for you to fully achieve that. So Sam, I'd love to know like just like our rough guideline as to how an individual should go about like actually choosing their next goal.
Yeah. So first thing that I actually picked up on with what Param was saying is kind of how to look at the actual shoot phase itself. Something I quite like to do is almost view it like a little bit of a vacation week as well. In the sense that you kind of build up to it, you get there, you're really, really excited. As you say, like it's a celebratory period. You've got that period potentially after the shoot where some people go away, some people did like a food tour around New York, things like that, right? And then you get back home, and just as you would when you come back from a vacation, you're into your normal routine. Like Paran said, the routines that got you there will also keep you there, right? But I think with goals, it's important to have discussed this prior to the shoot, so that you have got that additional direction after the shoot, right? Some people may not be in a position where they're 100% ready to solidify those goals just yet. But I think looking at, for me, do you have any physique goals? Do you have any specific health goals? Do you have any performance goals? Almost breaking it down into those different areas. Something I quite like to do as well whenever I'm goal setting is also ask people for their lifestyle goals, and if they've got any kind of career professional goals. Not necessarily something that I'm going to be giving huge amounts of advice on, right? I'm not a career coach. That's not why I'm here. But I also think performance goals, things like that, shouldn't come at the expense of these other things. So you can then, if your goal is just to maintain, actually continue to find that balance as well, and still feel like you are continually working towards something. So I think if ever someone's unsure, just breaking it down into those little categories, seeing if any of those actually hit home, works quite nicely. And then I would always ask someone to attribute a why to that as well. Why is that important to you? Because I've been there in the past myself, where you set a goal, you think, oh, that'd be quite nice. I'd quite like to be able to do that. But it's just like a trivial passing thought, and there's no real reason that you want to achieve that. Those are the goals that typically fall off. So having a why next to it as well is something I always like to add in.
Cool. I think like I would do like something very, very similar, where it's essentially as you're going through a photo shoot, there's only so much things that you can focus on in your life in the one time. So as you lean more towards like your training and nutrition, something else in another area of your life can very well not be getting the attention that it wants and it deserves. So what I like to be able to do is like look at an individual's like value structure as a whole. So let's say you've been nailing on your health and fitness and physique progress, okay? But like how have things been on the social side of things? Like maybe it is the case that you found yourself like not meeting up with friends as much. Like ideally that's not the case, but sometimes that does happen. So then you've got like this swap of like, okay, now I have the opportunity of like, I can meet up with friends a little bit more. I don't need to be like tallying up the calories in like this pastry or whatever it is and trying to fit it in. Like you have a little bit more flexibility. And it can just give you a little bit more headspace to actually enjoy social situations a little bit more without kind of worrying about the calories side of things. So this kind of brings us on to our another important point around just like food guilt and actually allowing yourself to increase calories up, and ties into Michael's question there again about just concerned about body fat gain. Archie, I know that's kind of a big, broad topic, but no better person.
So I think one of the things that are worth considering is exactly like you said, like, I think you have a little bit more wiggle room for error post photo shoot because you're not reaching for this huge milestone anymore. Like, you've done that, you're at the top of the mountain, but you also want to come down, quite slowly, which means you still want to have that importance around food, tracking macros, like all the habits that you had pre-shoot is something you still want to do after the shoot as well. But the beauty about it is that now you're coming in this space of like, hey, I actually look and feel better. So I'm going to use this food as fuel towards my training. So setting those performance goals that you mentioned, Sam, having something that's, kind of bigger than you to achieve even beyond your photo shoot is going to be important. And something that I actually did after my first shoot was I put the importance on the food, but I wasn't as pedantic about it. I allow myself to have that extra social out. I allow myself to enjoy a meal out without having to worry about the macros. And I always reframed it in my head, saying that, you know what, this is fuel and I'm going to put it to good use in my training. And that really helped, just that thought process around that, because I understand the concern that most people have is you're going to put gain fat again post photo shoot. And it's a very valid concern, but that's only going to happen if you're just eating without the relevant training beyond. So that's why reframing that mindset of, okay, well, I'm not going to be afraid of food, but rather this is going to fuel my training. So if you have a meal out or you've had a social that's a little bit over the top than you might have wanted it to be, train harder the next day. Like, make it a point to hit the PR, make it a point to get that extra rep in. And I think if you just keep telling yourself that, it will really help to translate into you feeling better about the choices you made in that social, because you're putting it to good use, basically. So that's really helped me kind of post shoot to avoid this whole element of like gaining body fat and not then feeling good and then fall into this perpetual cycle of gaining, losing, which most people end up falling in because they don't have a direction afterwards.
Yeah. I think like the overarching thing that's been popping up there is, and this is the advice I've given to like every single client, is the foods that you consumed in the lead up to your photo shoot. If you can consume them exact foods, but just in slightly bigger serving sizes. So the major thing that we will reduce when reducing an individual's calories is we don't really touch protein too much. We don't really touch fats too much beyond like a certain level. It's more so like carbohydrates are our means of creating a deficit. So one of the things that I've done with all clients is be like, okay, cool. What we want to do is we want to have like a 20% increase in your carbohydrates in your meals. Your big focus at the moment is because you still have these hunger cues that are trying to drive you to regain back body fat. So the food volume is still really, really relevant there. So if we can create these big, heavy, voluminous meals with the similar foods that you were eating up until you had your photo shoot, and then from there, just like increasing the serving sizes of the carbohydrates there. And once you're resistance training and you're resistance training well, and you're following a really good, consistent nutrition routine, you'd be pleasantly surprised at the amount of calories that you can actually consume whilst not really gaining any body fat back. Like that's one of the big goals that we should all kind of be striving for here, is like, how many calories can I consume on a weekly basis without like body fat levels accumulating? Because that's like the real sweet spot for maintenance is, can I get my calories up to 2,500 and not really be gaining any body fat back? And vast majority of people, like, you're going to be able to get your calories up 23 to 27 and still be at maintenance.
Yeah. I think quite a nice way. I actually mentioned this on a little pre-chat as well, of viewing potential added fat gain. I think almost depending on how lean you were at the shoot, some people need to gain body fat, to be honest, to just simply be where you feel good. That should be one of the primary aims coming out of a shoot, because you should always want to feel good. And I would hope, of course, that everyone who did a shoot felt amazing on that day. But also being at low body fat levels sometimes can mean that energy is a little bit lower, things like that, right? So in some instances, actually gaining body fat is very much a goal post shoot. But I also think just looking at it as, okay, rather than I'm losing condition, rather than I'm losing abs, things like that, if you can start to shift that mindset, and it's not going to be something that happens overnight, to what you're gaining instead of what you're losing. So rather than I'm losing my abs, I'm gaining strength, I'm gaining flexibility in my nutrition, things along those lines. You'll view the kind of post shoot phase much more positively overall, and just feel overall a lot better about it as well.
Yeah, and one of the things really important to mention there is don't equate scale weight gain to fat gain either. Like you're going to be really depleted in that week leading into your shoot. You're going to be hitting new lows in scale weight just because of like a lack of water retention and food volume, and you're going to have to gain that back really quickly. So that's essentially as well. Don't equate kind of body fat gain with your scale weight going up. Cool. Sam, anything just in terms of like managing your overall like well-being and headspace? Because I know like we're all probably, I think the coaches are in the same boat as well, where there is a degree of like holiday blues after, or big event blues. So how do we get our like mindset shift back into a good spot?
So I mean, quite a broad question, obviously.
Yeah.
I would say whenever you're trying to shift your mindset, again, give yourself a little bit of grace. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Especially when sometimes people who are going towards shoots have been kind of in body fat loss for a year plus, right? Or striving towards this shoot goal for over a year, right? So if you've been in that mindset of seeing the scale drop, and suddenly that's switching, give yourself that little bit of grace, right? Don't expect things to change immediately, and you may get a little bit of what we call cognitive dissonance afterwards. So Dee mentioned your value structure, right? And when we're not necessarily aligning with that value structure or what we believe to be part of that, that's when your kind of feelings can feel a little bit off, or we maybe kind of want to change our behaviors or something like that. So I would say focusing on a different value that you have is quite a nice one. It may be that you previously valued fat loss, right? But you've reached the end of that. What else do you value that maybe got pushed to the side a little bit, like Dee previously mentioned, right? Is that social interactions? Focus on that for a little bit, right? Is that time with loved ones, something like that? Focus on that a little bit, right? Finding another value that to you is very much important is one of the things that I would lean into there above all else. Karen, actually, I think this is a good time to chat to you. As you say, previously, it's probably well known that you messed up after one shoot. How did your mindset after that one switch to where you were this time around?
I think it's mainly because I've experienced it. You know what I mean? We think that, okay, once fat loss is done, I even had the, mindset that I was just going to get strong as hell, and every bit of weight that I was gaining was going to be muscle, and that I could be so flexible. I could have socials over the weekend, have pizza every single weekend, and I'd just be putting it toward muscle growth. And I think through that, and just understanding that, to Michael's question earlier on, the rate of gain sometimes is important to keep in track, right? The weight will go up. So I think setting those expectations first and foremost is important. But then I think there is something to this time round about being patient. And I love to gamify training. It is one of those things that is all about self-improvement. I was just patient with it. I started to look at how training anchored my day, how it made me feel for the rest of my day and set up my day to be just something in my life that is constant, that I just kept ticking along, and just strived for, through that patience, just self-improvement and, focusing on those performance goals, as you had mentioned. And yeah, just learning from perhaps the mistake that I had made earlier on in my journey.
Yeah. And because I've been there as well. No, it would have been like the first kind of bad rebound I would have had would have been I was on like 17. Like, so I was like, I was in the exact same mindset of just like, let's get jacked, essentially. And then you end up in this position where you're like, oh, in a month's time, I've regained a considerable amount of body fat to the point where if you wanted to enter into a muscle building phase, it's not productive anymore because you don't have that much more wiggle room to continue to push body weight up. Or I think for me, what kind of can happen is photo shoots or fat loss as a whole, and you being really robotic and regimented on it can be a nice, healthy form of, not a healthy form. It can be a form of distraction. So it can be a form of distraction. You've got other stuff going on in your life, but you're giving your energy and your attention towards the photo shoot. And then all of a sudden the photo shoot is swept up from underneath you and you're like, oh, these things that are going on in my personal life are still going on in my personal life, and I don't have that form of distraction anymore. And because of your hunger signals being through the roof and that drive to overconsume food, there can then just end up being a recipe for like using food as a means of regulating your emotions. So I think if this does resonate with people, because I suspect there's a couple of people there where it does resonate with a little touch. Just even putting that list together of things outside of your physique that need improvement, things outside of your health and performance goals that need improvement, relationship stuff, work stuff, whatever it is, and put a little action plan in place as to how you're going to overcome them. And as a function of you overcoming them, you'll find that like the post photo shoot blues weren't actually about the photo shoot.
Yeah.
I just want to mention too that although that's a very valid point, I think also the converse is equally true, where all of a sudden there's no longer this distraction for food. There isn't this distraction for this constant noise, and you are laser focused on one thing that it's quite automatic that other things actually get a good amount of attention. Does that make sense? Like if there is no decision fatigue around like when I'm doing my training, when you're up to your nutrition, what are you eating? Because that's something that takes up a lot of brain capacity, whether we like it or not, on if there isn't a goal to achieve. So at least that's something that I found for myself right now. I actually have my shoot coming up on Sunday, and I'm not thinking about anything else, in the sense of like I'm not focused solely upon this because it's so automatic. I'm actually able to give better attention to like, how's my day today looking? Like, what am I doing with kids? What's this happening? What's that's happening? So I'd say you could argue it both ways depending on the individual at hand.
Yeah, sorry, like it is also the case as well that having like a goal that you're working towards, everything else, you just become a little bit more robotic and streamlined. And there is that like, so yeah, that is also true. That is also true as well. Okay. Sam, are you going to add something there?
I was going to say, I've just remembered, I had forgot, but I've just remembered. I think similar to what Archie just kind of said, to be honest, to almost help mitigate that, and it's not always going to be easy, that post-shoot phase of, okay, there is actually a lot of other things to deal with here. Not ignoring that in the first place when building up to the photo shoot, not kind of pushing it to the side and still kind of being aware of and tackling other life stresses will make the post-shoot phase a lot smoother as well.
100%. And even for individuals who haven't went through a shoot yet, like these things still apply. Like if you've got other stuff going on, there's no point like banging your head against the wall in terms of macronutrients. If you've got another like bigger life stressor that needs to be rectified before your adherence can be in a good spot, because your ability to like do these harder behaviors is dictated by how good you're feeling. So if you can have your headspace in a good spot, your nutrition, training, lifestyle behaviors will be in a better spot as well.
Yeah, exactly that. I did have a question come through on the chat. It's a little bit less related directly to shoots, but we were talking differentiating scale weight from kind of body fat. And I had a message come through. Is there any particular scale you can use that measures body fat percentage, not just total weight? And are these effective? So to answer that, you've got, you will be able to find this just on Amazon if you just search kind of body fat percentage scales. Essentially what they do is use something called bioelectrical impedance, which sends an electrical signal through your body. And based on how fast that returns to the scale, will give a rough estimate of your body composition. Now, if they're accurate or not is a different question. the numbers you get given aren't going to be exactly what your body fat is, aren't going to be exactly what your muscle mass percentage is. And they can also be highly differential based on just hydration levels and things like that. However, I think there is something to be said for if you consistently take the same measure in the same conditions that has the same level of inaccuracy, any trend you see can still be accurate as well. So if you jump on the scale knowing that the body fat percentage number you actually get given isn't right, but it's trending downwards during fat loss or something like that, you're still losing body fat, is what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. that was a mad like ChatGPT response. You're a bit of a robot.
Just quickly typed it up.
No, that was absolutely spot on. Cool. So, Archie, I know your post photo shoot is going to be a little bit different than a traditional one would be. Could you give us a bit of an insight into that?
So this week, like after this week, so for anyone who doesn't know, actually, I am I'm Jane, so I'll be fasting from sort of next week onwards as well, which makes my post photo shoot slightly different. But I'll still maintain the same rules that I would have in any other post photo shoot, situation. So I have actually done 2 shoots in the past, and both of them post shoot approach them very much the same. Still on track with my macros, still meeting my protein targets. I make it a point to keep training at an all-time high because that's something that I find helps me to stay on track with what I want to be after my photo shoot, what I would like to continue after photo shoot. It comes back to like nothing really massively changes, right? I think after doing a shoot like a couple of times over, it's very bog standard, right? It's very normal. It's part of life. But I also appreciate that for anybody who hasn't been in that spot, for anybody who hasn't really done a photo shoot, it's like this pinnacle and this milestone for a lifetime you've achieved. And it's easy to fall into the trap of like, I'm just gonna go back to my old self because you don't know otherwise. So what's really helped me is really keeping that structure very much the same. I try to have my meal times very much similar to how I would have it right now. I don't increase my food quantities, I don't change up the meals a lot. I keep them relatively similar, just up the quantities, as you mentioned earlier, of like my carbs. And that's really it, to be honest. And I would do that quite religiously for at least 2 weeks post shoot. And after that, I would allow for a little bit more variety to come in, knowing that I've been able to bring my weight up a bit more to a manageable amount, a maintainable amount, post shoot, bringing back up the energy levels, etc. And then beyond that, it's more just like, again, having done this now for many years, I'm okay to fall into, for like 5 days of the week, I know what I'll be having. My structure is very much the same. But in the weekends, hey, I'm going to take the family out. Like, I want to have a family meal. Like, we'll go out, we'll play golf. I'll have some nachos. I'll enjoy myself. And then we start again from Monday. So nothing massively changes in that sense, but that's roughly the structure that I follow.
Yeah. I think that is essentially the best structure to follow. Slight increase in your carbohydrates Monday to Friday, then give yourself a little more leeway to have some flexibility for a social on the weekend. If you can do that, like you'll maintain, like you'll progress at the rate that you want to be progressing there. So something that I think is worth touching on as well, and this is not going to be the case for everybody, but it will be relevant for some people. It's just going in and doing like a second photo shoot or going in and doing a third photo shoot. So, David, I'm correct in saying that you've done one?
Yeah, so I've done a photo shoot.
Cool. And have you any interest in going on and doing another one?
Oh, of course, for sure. I think definitely if we can look at doing it the next year, I think I'll be happy to do it. I think from my experience with the first time, I think I also spoke about this on the podcast when we were in Houston. I didn't have to do as much prep, I think, as some people, which is okay.
Okay for you.
I did enjoy it, and it's something that I definitely want to do again. just in terms of the experience of it, being able to at least track my food, and knowing where your energy really comes from, right? So having that time before the photo shoot to even after the photo shoot, I enjoy it. So yeah, definitely next year, I'm looking to jump on again.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's just going to be on a case by case basis. If you're an individual who likes the idea of doing it again, it just needs time. Okay, because you can't go and do another one really in 6 months from now. Like not necessarily the case. I would recommend, by and large, if you're thinking about doing it, have the conversation with your coach, and then I would plan for approximately 2 years or 18 months time from now. Because I do think there's absolutely no harm in using it as like going through these like cycles of doing a bit of a building phase and a muscle building phase, and then maintaining for a little bit and then prepping for a photo shoot, particularly if you were an individual who likes seeing like consistent physique progress and consistently pushing yourself there. But like, again, it's just going to be kind of on a case by case basis. Sam, I think go for it.
I was just going to say, David, what for you would be the biggest kind of difference, I suppose, in shoot 2 versus shoot 1 as well?
I think shoot 1 was definitely obviously on the fat loss stage. I think shoot 2, I'm looking to be a little bit bigger than I was before. So if you see me double the size but still looking lean, that's what I'm going for.
All right, yeah.
So what Dee was talking about earlier as well, in terms of having a second photo shoot. From my experience, even with one of my clients, Chirag, if you are looking to do something, he did something quite straight after. That was men's physique, that was in 8 weeks. So at least we wasn't waiting too long. We're able to make sure we can still go around to maintenance without blowing past it, and still making sure we can obviously keep his physique of what he's been able to build from his fat loss as well. So yeah, I'd say either you want to keep it very short term if you want to do something special like that, but if you're doing a second photo shoot, then go exactly what Dee said.
And for that actual men's physique show, was there anything that you feel Chirag did especially well to be able to maintain that level of kind of leanness condition that he brought to the shoot as well, going into that 8-week period?
Yeah, it was the main thing was training intensity. He never let it down. That was the main thing that he was going for, and especially using those extra calories, those extra macros that you're getting there. Again, like Arch was saying earlier, to fuel your workouts now. So that's the main thing that he was obviously, and stayed on track with nutrition as well.
Yeah. I think actually you mentioned for you the second shoot would be more kind of around having a muscle building phase. And Ruchi actually mentioned in the chat, it took a while post photo shoot to actually understand the difference between going from not necessarily fat loss, but going from the post shoot maintenance into the muscle build as well. Dee, do you want to touch on that a little bit as well?
Yeah, sure. So it's very, very much dependent on what an individual's long-term goals is. Sometimes individuals are going to finish up fat loss and they're like, you know what, I'm quite happy now with my level of muscle mass. I'm quite happy now with my level of body fat. I just want to maintain in and around here. So for an individual like that, you don't necessarily need to be going through like a direct muscle building phase where you push yourself into a calorie surplus and actually try gain body weight. It's essentially what a muscle building phase is. You're trying to gain body weight back in a controlled manner, and with good resistance training and good recovery methods and good nutrition, you can hope that the vast majority of body weight that you're gaining is going to be muscle mass. So that is going to be an option for certain individuals, that they will go through this direct like muscle building phase, as opposed to for some other individuals it's going to be maintenance. Maintenance is going to essentially what it's going to look like, depending on how lean you got in your photo shoot. You're gonna have like a set point where your body's relatively comfy at. So if you got really, really lean for your photo shoot, it's not going to be super feasible for you to maintain that. The effort that it puts into maintaining that level of leanness is just not worth it. It's just like, it's a consistent thing. Like, I've been lean and maintained it for a considerable amount of time. It requires too much of your headspace. So yeah, it's great to be lean, but it just requires too much effort to maintain that. So, but there will be for each individual a level of like body fat that they have that they're like, you know what? I can maintain this. Yeah, it requires to have structure and discipline, but I also can have that degree of flexibility in there as well. Where that is going to be different for each individual. And then from there, for individuals that are going to maintain, I would still like highly recommend still have that mindset of like, I'm going to build as much muscle mass as possible, because maybe you won't optimize muscle mass accumulation, but you'll do close to without being in a surplus. I think for individuals like that, it can be a nice idea to shift the goal towards like, maybe I want to bring up a particular muscle group. So I want to do like lats or delts focus, let's say. Or maybe it's picking a different form of physical activity. So incorporating in whether that's a training for a half marathon or a marathon or high rocks or something like that, giving yourself that performance oriented goal to work towards, and giving yourself like that time of like, okay, 6 months from now, that's a nice amount of time for me to work towards this new goal that I've put in place.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think if muscle building is not necessarily for you as well, a different kind of physical activity orientated goal is always nice. I'd actually be interested to hear you expand a little bit. You mentioned even in a maintenance phase, still looking to build some muscle mass.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of health benefits to that. Do you want to touch on a few of those as well?
So just like the benefits of building muscle mass?
Just the benefits of health-wise of just having additional muscle tissue on your frame.
Yeah. So up to a certain point, like building muscle mass is going to be one of the best things that you can do in terms of not only like reducing your fall risk, increasing your bone mineral density, having like your diabetes in a good spot, or your risk factors for diabetes in a good spot, like cardiovascular disease, pretty much every like long-term disease that we can accumulate, exercise and resistance training and building muscle is going to be beneficial for. Do you want me is there anything in particular?
No. I just thought who better to go to expand on it a little bit more. So yeah, I've not had any other questions come through. Has anyone else had any questions dropped to them just yet?
No. So just before we do wrap this up, I think one of the big things is just chat with your coach. See the communication you had with your coach in the 4 weeks leading up to your shoot. You should have that exact same thing on the back end. So like have that consistent, close communication. And I think that the big thing there is when you're like, if and when you're struggling with things, if you are just being open and honest about it, so we can help.
Yeah, 100%. I think communication throughout in the entirety of coaching is probably one of the biggest factors. To be 100% honest. So yeah, the communication post shoot around any struggles, just even what's going well, celebrate those things. Is absolutely key.
Yeah. I reckon, I haven't done it now, but I reckon if we could take like consistencies of communication scores and map it out to progress, we would see that there actually is like a relationship there.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Cool. Okay. So let's share our screen for a final time.
I was just about to mention that. I was going to say, if you go ahead and pull up your screen, I'll walk through this. We've just had one more question come through as well. So if you do take a photo of the screen now, tag your coach, tag KMAC, tag either me, D, or David. Any of us three is absolutely fine. You'll be in with a chance next week of winning a pair of AirPod Pro 2s. And it's a bit of a tongue twister. With a KMAC athlete on the case as well. One of our kind of most asked about prizes that we've done so far. So we thought we'd bring that back. But just while this is still up on the screen, we've had a question. How about from a training perspective post shoot? As diligent getting all those workouts in, or stay consistent in the gym, kind of leisurely?
Yeah, no, like this is the one thing that has to be a non-negotiable, full stop, is like you take your training seriously and you continue to do that. Yeah, that's like one of the big things that you want to do. Just like full stop forever, no matter the outcome you're looking at. Train with intensity and as consistently as you possibly can. And if there's it's honestly one of the best behaviors that you can do.
Yeah, 100%. I would say we've mentioned around structure with food, things like that. One of the biggest things training wise is just keep that structure. If some people may need a little bit of a deload temporarily for maybe a week, but I wouldn't do that from removing training, especially post shoot. I would keep that structure in place of just showing up to the gym, still getting your regular exercises in. If anything, and you feel you need to, just pulling back a little bit on intensity there. But for the most part, if you're feeling good coming out of the shoot, there's no need to really drop that either.
Yeah, 100%. So bar like a deload being added in there, which is absolutely fine. Or some iteration of a holiday or something like that, no big deal. But as a general rule, yeah, like this is your best period to build muscle. This is your best period to get strong. Like train and actually, like you'll actually really enjoy your training. I know, like post photo shoot is the best period of training. You get your intramuscular fullness back. You got a little bit of vascularity going on there.
Yeah, your progress just
training. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful training period as scale weight comes up slowly, as food comes up. Your rate of progress will be like when you have newbie gains, essentially.
Yeah. Zach, actually, before we do wrap it up, do you want to touch on kind of muscle building strength wise as well? You're in that phase, right? So how was progress for you when you started that phase versus kind of coming towards the end of it now as well?
Yeah, no, I think it's that sort of mind shift into sort of chasing numbers on your sort of PBs rather than numbers on the scale, and just finding the excitement around that. It's definitely a learning curve, obviously, but it's still exciting. I find it, really enjoyable during the muscle building phase. I loved it during like every single day going to the gym. I'd be like, right, I'm going to try and go for this number, moving forward day by day. But now I'm in your hands, aren't I? So getting ready for the fat loss phase, ready for my first shoot coming up. So I'll have a bit more feedback for post shoot details as well shortly, won't I?
Yeah, no, it's going to be a good one, bro. It's going to be a good one.
For sure.
Awesome guys. Right, we'll leave it there. Thank you all so very much for coming. As usual, if you do have any questions, do just shoot them on to any of us. I'm more than happy to help, and we'll chat with you all very soon. Cheers.